So you probably know that Mr. Ricklesworth Beato book is a bit of a meme on this channel. I personally used to be a huge fan of Rick's way back when he used to obviously still be passionate about making content. But unfortunately, these days, he's just kind of a massive grifter. And most of what he does is really just pandering to his, let's say, very specific demographic. All that being said, sometimes he does have a spark of inspiration and release something genuinely interesting instead of just reacting to TikTok songs on Spotify. His recent video called something like "Why Are Only Rich Kids Making It Music" resonated with me quite a bit and echo a lot of opinions I have myself about music and about how musicians are just being like fucking priced out of the industry now. His video is more about pop music and aimed at a wider audience, but honestly, most of these points apply to metal as well. So today, I want to show you that metal has always been a completely pay-to-win genre, just like any other, and that it's only getting worse.
Gonna sit down for this one, I think, yeah.
So even though metal does have its roots in working class traditions, with early bands like Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, Motorhead coming from extremely humble, working class, industrial English beginnings, the genre didn't really stay there for long, to be honest. Despite traditional metal still having a pretty deep association with the working class, especially here in the UK, in my opinion, metal has nearly always been a mostly white middle class endeavour, to be honest. To quote Lord Bruce Dickinson himself, "With the exception of Black Sabbath, probably, none of the big heavy metal bands are anything other than bourgeoisie." Of course, there are many inspiring grassroots, rags to riches stories from bands like Slipknot, Opeth, Sepultura. But if you do a bit of research, you'll find that, to be honest, the vast majority of very successful metal bands over the past few decades have come from pretty comfortable middle-class backgrounds. But why does this matter? It's not that big a deal, right? Like, who cares what background someone is from? Why do bands from more comfortable backgrounds have a much higher chance of success than bands from poorer backgrounds? Besides the obvious factor of money, of course, which is like a no-brainer. But in my opinion, and also what is mentioned in Rick's video, the number one biggest factor at play here is simply time.
Time is money, friend.
No matter how much money you throw at a band, if you don't have the time to leverage that, then it's not really going to account for much, if anything. To raise and nurture a band from the ground up is a huge grind and a massive time investment. Writing new music, recording new music, promoting said music, playing countless shows, promoting said shows. And how exactly are you meant to do all of that while also juggling a full-time job or maybe multiple jobs, as well as just like regular day-to-day stuff? Well, the answer is you don't.
Because only wealthy people, unfortunately, for the most part, can focus on music and doing music as a career because they don't have to work. Now, they may have jobs and work, but they don't have the pressure of that.
Being able to live and breathe what you do with no other worries or responsibilities is going to infinitely fast track you compared to a band, for example, who can only meet up like once or twice a week after work. It's estimated that the working class constitutes about 60% of the whole American workforce, and nearly 10 million of these are working multiple jobs to be able to survive, nearly 500,000 of which are working 2 entire full-time jobs. Unfortunately, I think it's fair to say that any musicians among these 10 million folk can kiss their dreams of making it goodbye. It's so sad, really. Just think about how many amazing bands and musical projects we're missing out on just because of these really entirely unfair, shitty economic situations. People often romanticize the image of teenagers jamming in their garages. And to be honest, we're at the point now where even having a garage kind of feels like a privilege. Huh? Which is quite frankly a bit depressing. Not to mention the additional financial burden of having to buy all of the gear a band needs, instruments, instrument accessories, amps or amp modelers, home recording equipment, because who's got money to pay for a proper studio, merch, transport, gas, photographers and videographers for music videos and live shoots, and then the additional time investment of having to get good at recording, mixing, graphic design, video editing, learning about social media optimization. The sad truth is most bands don't make it out of their hometown simply because The amount of skills and time and money required to raise a band these days are just quite frankly astronomical. And now just think about how much infinitely easier it would be if you could dedicate every single hour of the day to your art without the pressure of crippling financial responsibilities, or to have some sort of financier who could fund absolutely everything you wanted to do creatively. You could definitely argue that metal was more of a level playing field back in its golden era, and if you were good enough, you could absolutely grind your way to the top. Grab your season passes, boys, because the band experience now is 100% pay to win. It's kind of funny but unsurprising that this is also a thing in the content creation space here on YouTube and Instagram, etc. Now, I don't want to name any names, but I can say with confidence and experience that a decent chunk of the big music names you follow here on YouTube come from pretty rich families. Became successful and were able to maintain their success largely because they didn't have to work and could just make videos like indefinitely. Of course, not that that inherently makes them any less of a creator, it's just an interesting observation, that's all. Now, I don't want to make this a pity party or something, but when I was up and coming here on YouTube, I was working a pretty intense full-time job and coming home in the evenings and spending every single minute of my free time making videos, and then going to sleep, getting a few hours sleep, going to work, and repeating. Obviously, it physically destroyed me, and I think I maintained it for about a year before I just had a fucking meltdown and had to stop. And I can guarantee, if I didn't have to work at all during that time and could just focus on videos, I would have sped up my progress by like 1 or 2 years at least, probably. And spared myself several panic attacks. Because of this though, I can easily spot creators and artists and bands who are doing the same sort of thing, who are mega passionate and invested in what they do, put every minute of their spare time into it, every penny that they earn into it, and are obviously working their fucking asses off to make it happen. Anyway, to round this all up, I really don't want to start some sort of class war in the comments. I know it might sound a bit like that, but that's really not the intention. Because let's be real, you don't have any choice at all on what family you're brought into or what your background is. Like, who really cares at the end of the day? And as long as your art or your content or whatever it is that you do is great and makes people happy, entertains people, you know, makes people feel real emotions, then who fucking cares, right? Whatever. I just think it's very important to at least be mindful of how seriously weighted the music industry is, or I guess any creative industry is, against individuals who don't have like vast amounts of money and time to be able to put into what they do. And to my regular Joe Schmoes out there who are grinding it out, putting every last minute of spare time you have, every spare penny you have into your art, into your creativity, while also working a pain in the ass job and maybe even raising a family too, then you have my infinite respect, because I know firsthand how fucking hard it is, and I really hope you're part of the 0.1% who make it and become one of those really awesome success stories. But what do you guys think about all this? Please do let me know. I would love to hear. Cheers, guys. Take care, and I shall see you again very soon. Bye-bye.
All right, mate. Do that, then do that. Nice one.